Hello and welcome to this Wednesday, November 14th edition of Keystroke Live. My name is Dave Hunsinger, and today I am going to be talking about end-of-year procedures. This is really end-of-year procedures part one. We're going to do part two next week with Lynn, and she is going to cover variance, and I'm kind of covering everything else this year. So just remember, I get to my right window, Keystroke Live every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, same login information. And today we're going to talk about end-of-year procedures. And my first 2 points there about inventory value and accounts receivable, they are reports that are important to run, and why they're important to run at the end of the year is I call them absolute reports, that they report on what is the value today. So if I switch over to my keystroke, and I'm going to go ahead and just hit R for Report Manager, there is the Inventory Database Report. And typically, we are going to run some kind of, say, totals with profit. And maybe I'm going to do in stock only. A lot of these settings, you can decide how you want to, or if you want to group them. And make sure I'm printing this to the screen. This is going to go ahead and give me a report, and I think I've got a funny form going here. But what this report, it gives me quantity on hands and total value and price for all of my inventory items. And this is the value as of today, right here, right now. That's what I'm really trying to get across, and what's important about this is that when you run this report, it's the value right then and there. Let me see if I can get a little bit better looking report. I think that one had gotten edited a little bit, or I've got a screwy default printer going. And you can also do things like I can group by department to just get a total value. If I do this summary, and oh yeah, I've got a goofy printer set up here, but it basically gives me every department, quantity on hand, and the totals there. Now, because I think if I click print here, yeah, I've got a funny printer selected with, so it's giving me a 40-column format there. But gives me quantity on hand, total value. Again, this is important so that at the end of the year, you've got the value of the of keystroke of your total inventory. And then it's the same thing with accounts receivable. There is the sales receivables report, and this will give you the amount due for each customer as of today, right now. There's not a way to run these reports and say, hey, go give me the value as of a week ago. You can run what the accounts receivable value is today, and then what you've taken off since January 1st and what you've added since January 1st and calculate it, but you can't say, hey, go give me the value back on January 1st. So it's good to run these at the end of the year. And let's see if this one, yeah, this one's coming out screwy too. I've got some font problem going here. But this gives me a list of my customers and what their amounts due are. So those two reports are good to run at the end of the year. Another thing with accounts receivable, if I go into accounts receivable right now, and I'm going to hit insert to pull up my list of customers, I may have customers with outstanding amounts of finance charges that they never paid off, or somebody that was account receivable I put on account 2 years ago and they still haven't paid, or somebody with a credit that's disappeared now that I just want to get rid of. And so the end of a year is a good time to look at those events. So if somebody has finance charges I want to write off, that's a very easy procedure because I can just go here to Finance and Edit and go ahead and select a customer, see if I can find someone that's got. So Barney has a $4.39 finance charge. I can just go in and change that to 0 to write off finance charges if I want to. Now, I could also, if I didn't want to just change it to 0 and make it go away, because really accounting-wise, finance charges don't count for a whole lot until they're paid. So this just makes them go away, but I could also leave them there and pull up customer number 11 and come in here and select a payment type that I have that's AR adjustments and say $4.39 and apply it to those finance charges. How does this act differently? Well, this will transfer over to your accounting software if you're using QuickBooks or BusinessWorks or Peachtree that you wrote off that $4.39. Some people may want to see that, some people don't. Like I say, usually the finance charges don't count for anything until they're paid, so typically just changing them to 0 is fine. Now the other thing you can do with that AR adjustments is I could say, okay, I know Barney closed business and moved away and I'm never going to get this $286, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm never going to get his invoice paid for. So I can come in here again and do AR adjustment, and then, you know, maybe I'll say that he's out of business and $286.95, apply it to there so that that invoice goes away, so it's not showing up on my report month after month after month after month. I can go ahead and do that. Now, this AR adjustment payment, when you're posting to your accounts receivable, you might, I'm going to hit mute here just to get rid of some of that background noise, but the AR adjustments you might post to a bad debt or some kind of exception account so that you can keep track of, okay, here's what I wrote off. And then likewise, you can do the same thing with people that have credits. You can use that AR adjustment and say, hey, this guy had a $15 credit. I don't know where he is anymore. He's gone, so I'm going to do a basically negative $15 payment to write that off to make it go away so I don't have that credit sitting on my books for a long time. And again, this is kind of cleaning up your accounts receivable. That at end of, you can do it any time of year, but end of year is just a good time to stop and take a look at that. If I go back to my PowerPoint, the third item down there is sales tax rate. June 1st and January 1st are often sales tax rate change times when they change. And if I go back to Keystroke, and I'm going to go ahead into my configuration manager and select tables and tax and tables. Now, if we say, hey, our state local rate's going from 8.25% to 9.25%, and I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview of this, but the big thing there, I'm going to select state and local, and then I'm just entering on the district, state local, and what I've got here is my taxable rate from the beginning of time to 7/17/2010 was 7.75%. Then if I look down through my rates here, and here taxable from 7/18/10 to 12/31/20 is 8.25. I want to be sure Keystroke knows what the tax rate was and what the tax rate is. So I can come to my T-taxable here. I'm just hitting enter on it, and I say the end date is going to be 12/31/12. So it will go up until the last day of this year. Now I'm just going to hit insert to add one. T-taxable, it's going up 1%, so it'll be 9.25, and it's going to start on 1/1/13. And I'm going to go ahead and hit F10 to save that. And so now I've got a taxable, and here we're looking at the old one that ends on 12/31/12. And here we're looking at the new one that begins on 1/1/13, and it's 9.25%. That way, if you go back and edit an old invoice, it knows, oh, in December, the tax rate was 8.25. In January, the tax rate was 9.25. So it's just Keystroke knows what it was, it knows what it is. The other beauty of this is you could go make that tax rate change today, and you don't have to get up at 6 a.m. on January 1st and update everybody's taxes, kind of like cash registers used to work. You can do it ahead of time and get it done. We do have the, if I pull up the help screens, they are very good with the tax rate changes. There's good detail on there on exactly how to do it. I also have a fax document you can request, and we could send you if you needed to have that spelled out or be able to hand it to somebody. There is database maintenance that you can also do. Now, I want to be real clear with this. Packing databases is not regular maintenance. You'd never have to pack databases without a good reason to do so. If you are looking at the index, which is the list of, say, inventory items or customers by description or product code, say, for inventory items, if the descriptions are out of order, then the index is off, and packing will rebuild that index. The other thing packing does is if you've deleted thousands of items, it will permanently remove them. When you delete an item or delete a customer, it doesn't actually remove it from the database, it just marks it for deletion. When you pack it, it permanently removes that. So if you haven't deleted a whole lot of items and everything's working fine, you really don't have to pack at the end of the year. When I talk about database maintenance, I'm talking about there's a few fields on each database record that you could change or mess with to reset some quantities for the new year. So if I go into the database manager, and I'm just going to hit enter on inventory, select edit, select any item. I have some fields here, total purchased and total sold. I could reset those so that it would be total purchased in 2013, total sold in 2013. Some people like them cumulative. Some people might want them as of a certain date and time, because basically those are just counters. One gets added each time. Now, if you see I can't move to those fields right now, I have to change their security. You know, we lock you out of them because Keystroke should keep them updated. But I can go here to Setup and Default, and I can pick Edit Mode. And if I come down here and on the bottom message bar, it says F3 is Edit Security. So I'm going to hit F3. It's set to -1. If I just go ahead and set that to 0, hit F10, go ahead and save it. Now you see I can get in that field and I can change it. If I want to change all of my database records so that the total purchased is 0, I can go up here to Find, Search and Replace. This is a quick look at Search and Replace. We can give another Keystroke Live that'll give a whole more detailed, but this is the search screen in the bottom right corner. It says Search. I'm going to leave it blank. That means I want to change all my inventory items. Replace, I want to change total purchased to 0. Confirm change to each record. When I do this, I always say yes. Okay, this one we already changed at 0. We'll say update this record, yes. This one is 12. It's stock number 2, short sleeve shirt. I'll say, let's see, the price is $28. Say yes to update. Now I'm going to hit escape to go out. Just hitting page up to go back to record number 3. The total purchased is 0. The price is still 28. Did everything like I want it to. So now I can just go back to find, search and replace. Find, search and replace. My search screen is blank. That's everything. My replace screen is total purchased. It's changing to 0. Confirm change to each record. I'm going to say no. Now it's going to whip through my whole database and change every total purchase to 0. And so I've done that. I could do total purchase, total sold. If I'm looking at customer records, I could do, there's a total purchase field, which is on the more data screen, total purchase 4059. I could change that. I could change the latch purchase date. It's really, if you just want to change these, you can. Gives you the opportunity. Now I want to talk about, go back to my PowerPoint, data backup. And Keystroke's got data backup in it. There is a quick archive and a backup feature that uses 7-zip. They get the data. It's a good way to back up. There are better ways to back up, and end of year is always a good time to look at that. There's more on a computer typically than just the keystroke data. That if you have a disaster, a tremendous failure, use the whole computer. There may be other things you want on there too, so it's good to look at things, software that does mirroring or ghosting, Windows virtual machines, or even just going and buying a terabyte or 2 terabyte hard drive for $150 and plugging it in and copying everything to it, just so you've got every single thing on your computer. And end of year doesn't have to happen end of year, but it's just a good time to think about that, to have it. I do like making a separate directory of my keystroke data somewhere on a secure server on a local machine, so that if I ever do need to go back to the end of year, I can go look at that data if I need to. If I need to run that receivables report or the inventory value report, I can go get that data easily without having to restore a backup and unzip stuff. So that's another something you can do, but it's good to look at backups, and I think you guys out there know a lot more about it than I do. I do a lot of everyday backing up my active keystroke and contact manager directories, and every month doing it and taking it off site. And, so there's a lot of different ways to do it, but remember, there are other ways than in keystroke, and often better ways, because you can get accounting data, email data, document data, things like that, that also are probably good to have back up in case of a disaster or some kind of huge failure of systems. Last couple things I want to mention are update keystroke software. Again, it's a good time, especially if the winter is somebody's off season, get keystroke updated, get everything going, make sure you're ready to go. And then there's the update other software. Part of PCI is having Windows and antivirus security software updated. Like I say, there may be accounting software to update, other products that a customer is using, and it's just a good time to kind of sit down and assess, well, maybe we're not going to update it now, but we'll update it at the end of January, or we'll schedule, can't afford buying an update now, let's do it in August when we're done with our busy season and we know we have some funds set up. But to kind of sit down and map that out with customers, it's a good time of year to sit down and look at not only updating keystroke, but hey, we're running on Windows XP, maybe it's time to go to Windows 7 or 8, or we're got that old NT or Windows 2000 server, let's get it up to Windows Server 2008, that kind of stuff. It may be a good time to just a chance to sit down and assess all that. So that was a quick overview of what I have at the end for end of year procedures. I am going to go ahead and unmute everyone. I also like to say typically we send an email to the end users the second week of December that kind of gives a quick overview of end of year and variance and things and tax rate changes, things they might want to do, just to bring it to their attention. And we put in there it's a good idea to call your Keystroke dealer for help on this too. So some of this information goes out to end users usually about the second week of December. Anybody have any questions for me? And I did get you unmuted, right?
David, I have a question.
Okay.
When you do the search and replace, do you have to go in and change the security setting on those fields before you do that for the ones that don't have the change?
Right. Yes, you do. If you do not have access to those fields, and what Keith is asking there, if I switch back to Keystroke, is if on my customer record, if I wanted to change this total purchase field, I need to make it available so I can edit it. I can't change it if I'm not able to go edit it. So that's where I have to go here to set up default, and it'll display the screen that I'm looking at. It automatically highlights that. I just hit enter. I go to that total purchase field, hit F3 to edit security, and change it to 0. Now, after I change everything, I want to be sure to go back and change it back to -1, which just basically says lock everybody out of it.
Nope.
And there's a lot you can do with these database screens too. You can have different screens depending if your security level is 0, like you're a manager, or 5, like you're a clerk, that maybe you don't see cost fields and things like that. So it's good to kind of get into looking at that. Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming today. Next week, Lynn will be talking about variance, which is kind of end of year part 2. And so she'll give you a good overview on getting quantities updated and doing physical inventory maybe at the end of the year. So thank you all for attending.